Canine Detection Collaborative. We bring the conversation straight to you. Training tips and helpful hints you'll actually use. Real insights from real experts with a side of laughs. Canine Detection Collaborative is where it's at. It all comes down to just one thing, helping our dogs be the best they can be. Canine Detection Collaborative.
Hey everybody, it's Stacy Barnett from Canine Detection Collaborative, and I'm here with my amazing co-host, Robin Greubel.
Greetings.
I love it when you do that. It's so funny. It's like, I'm like, sci-fi. Yeah. So a kind of a cool topic today, because we're going to be talking a little bit about like distraction, we're going to get into all the stuff that builds up into how do you get through distracting areas. And there's a whole lot of stuff to kind of layer on into that. And that's really what we're going to kind of talk about today. We do have Distraction Camp coming up. There are a couple spots left if anybody wants to come out and join us at Canine Census Foundation. It's 800 incredible acres of really, really cool stuff to search around. So that is coming up. Those dates are June
15th, 12th,
yeah,
something. Well, the link's in the show notes.
The whole week.
So Stacy and I were actually just having this whole conversation, and we're like, oh, hey, let's just hit record, right?
Yeah.
Because I had something happen to me just a couple of days ago, which by the time this airs is a couple of weeks ago. And it perpetuated us having the conversation around relationship and how a relationship with your dog can help get you and your dog through some really stressful stuff. And we've had people numerous times tell us that Distraction Camp is actually relationship camp.
It's not quite as like fluffy as that sounds.
It sounds right.
It sounds really fluffy, and
it's not.
Like Kumbaya. That's not what we're talking about here.
Because what ends up happening at Distraction Camp is you've got me and Stacy, and then Christy Rock is joining us this year. And so you have people with extensive amount of experience who have seen thousands and thousands of dogs watching you in a good way and giving you, making little tweaks here and there or making observations. And this past, one of the things that really happened, and I had a wonderful 3.5 hours to think as I was driving home from task force training about this. We were doing a training for our medics on the task force team. And I took the dogs because when you're doing crossover training from the medics into canine, they kind of need dogs, right? And so I grabbed the labs and Nico, and we went off to training. And one of the things that we were working on was, how do you restrain a dog? And how do you put in they were practicing putting in catheters, and don't worry, the dogs are fine. I mean, oh my God, it was under the supervision of a vet. It was fabulous training for everybody, including fabulous training for my dogs. And the fun thing was getting these medics to restrain the dogs. Because for those of us who do this all the time, we're just like, oh, this is how you do it, right? And
I mean, they're people medics, right? I mean,
yeah, they're people medics.
Yeah.
Those of us who do a lot of this, we're fine serving as vet techs because we have to do this all of the time. I walk in and I'm like, here, just let me hold the dog. It's easier and it's faster and I can get out. So anyway, I had Flash and Flare, and I also had Nico that we were working on, and we were switching them in and out, right? And the guys, or the medics, were so funny because Flash and Flare got on the table and it was like wrestling an anaconda. And they got a nice upper body workout. And Nico comes in And I put him up on the table and I tell him to lay down. And I'm standing there and everybody's safe, right? So we've got muzzles because we have to practice all of that and all sorts of things. And I just tell Nico to plot and I put up the little finger that says, trust me, watch me, we're good. The medic who was holding him said, he's like, is this giving you an upper body workout? He's like, no, he hasn't moved a muscle.
A good boy.
He is easier to restrain than the labs. And I'm like, we've done this a lot. But I also know that if I probably would have left, Nico would not have been happy. And it was one of those instances where it hit me like a ton of bricks that my dog trusts me, that I am not going to let something bad happen to him. And a huge shout out because he's incredibly clear-headed and all of those things. I mean,
yeah,
there's genetics that play parts of that too.
I had a similar actually situation when I was down in Texas, right? So I went down there to do a study last year down at Texas Tech, which was really cool. And as a part of that, this is when I was doing really all wilderness with Prize. And we did just like this little brief, very kind of just a warm-up exercise. But during her, because she was doing a refind at the time, but story, in the back and forth, she broke one of her Dewclaw nails.
Ouch.
Yeah. And she was really, really sore. And it was just really kind of hanging on by a thread. It wasn't bleeding that badly, but because it was kind of the way it was hanging, just anything that touched it, painful. But one of the person that was kind of like facilitating the exercise was a veterinarian. And she took a look at it. And here, I've got this amazing relationship with Prize because of all the stuff that we've done. She put down her tailgate and we did right there kind of a field
addressing.
She did a field medic. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so she literally removed the Dewclaw nail there in the field.
Ow.
I know. Well, it was just on by a thread. And she felt so much better afterwards. But there was Prize who was like good as gold on the back of the tailgate out in Texas, getting her foot worked on. I really think, and I don't think before we had done everything we've done together and the relationship that we've built together that she would have been like that at all.
Well, and it's really interesting because we have these conversations and I know of lots of stories of somebody who's like, yeah, my dog got hurt in the field. And so what we did is we just pulled out, a staple gun and stapled it up and away we go. And the dog's like, yep, I trust you. And so it's been so interesting as we're talking through all of this to really think about how that relationship is kind of all mushed together and a focus of engagement, because unless you have a dog who is engaged with you, you can't build that relationship.
No.
And
you can't get through distraction.
You can't get through distractions.
It's impossible. That's like it, like you doing. That's like the number one thing you need.
That engagement helps you be able to regulate the arousal.
Yeah.
That comes along with, no, I just need you to settle. No, I need you to, so when we start talking about, people talk about relationship and all sorts of things. And I've actually started reframing it to engagement.
Yes. It's like engagement plus connection.
Yes.
It's like there's this action piece that's a part of engagement, but you need the relationship to get the connection.
Right.
So you've got to build the relationship and you've got to build engagement for all those pieces to kind of come together. And it feeds the engagement, which then feeds your ability to work distraction.
To ask the dog to do things. Yes.
Yeah.
And so I'm thinking about even some of the stuff in the academy. One of the things I ask my students to do is train directionals. Do I want them to pass a FEMA level evaluation? No, right? That's not the purpose of the exercise.
Yeah.
The purpose of the exercise is being able to read when your dog is going to disengage.
Ah, that's a good one. That's a
right?
good one to do it with. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And it comes down to we're thinking about how do you get a dog an off-leash environment, because I ask them to work it off leash.
Okay, good.
Right. And to run away from you and do a stupid behavior like go sit next to a cone or jump on a platform.
Do you want to kind of explain the whole directionals, what that looks like? Because there's, and I have to say, like, there's just not a lot out there to be able to, like, because I remember this conversation quite clearly. Robin, what does it actually look like?
Right. So imagine it this way.
Yeah.
You are standing on home base for a Major League baseball diamond.
Yes.
Okay. And your job as the trainer and handler is to get the dog to be able to run to first, third, or pitcher's mound and jump on the base and sit there and wait for you to give it another cast to another location. And there's rules that apply when you're doing testing and all sorts of things, but we won't go into those.
And there is one second base. So they have to go to first or third.
Right. I mean, we have for FEMA testing, we have set patterns that you have to be able to do. But if you're really going to make this fun for yourself, you actually set up something like 6 or 7 bases, and you can actually get the dog to go away from you. But here's the fun, interesting part. If you can take those bases and you can generalize the behavior, I can send my dog down into a ravine. I can send my dog all sorts of places. For hunting people, this is the same as a blind, right? I'm going to send you in a direction, keep running until you find a thing or a duck. So the idea of all of this is, can you do this enough? And I teach it without using force. Can I get the dog to understand, trust me, there's something out there, just keep running until I tell you to stop.
Yeah.
And in order to get to that, you actually have to be able to cut down your criteria, and you have to pay enough, and you have to do all these things. But it comes down to, we call it, the dog trusts you that they're going to continue to go and do what you want them to do.
Yeah.
But I also think Natalie Runge did so much work with some of her dogs. I mean, she's got bowls of food sitting out there, and the dog's got to run over the bowls of food.
Wow.
And I know, right? She was like the queen of this.
Wow, that's like next level right there.
I know, right?
Oh.
I'm like, I don't know if Nico will run over the top of his toy to go do that.
Yeah. I'm sitting here, I've got some ideas, and I'm like, oh.
Right. Because we think about your reinforcer as your ultimate distractor.
Yeah.
But it's, can I keep the engagement level with my dog and build the relationship for you to run out to do that? And I also have to have, and this is one of the things that I'm finding really interesting with the puppies, is I do not have this huge arousal mobility like I do in the older dogs. And so it goes back to having to teach some of that to the puppies. Yeah. I'm getting you really, really high because we're going to do, and here's one of the things that I found is I can do all sorts of sit and stare work with food. As soon as right now I introduce a toy, I don't have a dog anymore.
Yeah, too much arousal. Like
too much arousal.
Yeah, they're just not fluent enough.
No. And so it turns into a little, and this is where I practice this, because we go high, 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 high. Yeah. And then we introduce a little bit of an obedience behavior, calm. And we actually modify that based on how big the reinforcement events are.
Yes. So going back to your conversation or the comment that you made about using directionals to your students to see when the dog's going to disengage.
Yes.
And I had I was training directionals the other day, right? With prides. And it was fascinating. I had a moment there where that communication Terry, I just want to kind of share this because it was a really cool application of that, where the tables were set up kind of like kind of like this angle. And over on the right-hand side, there was this pallet of cinder blocks that looked like it could have been a table.
Right.
But it was just a pallet of cinder blocks. And it was in line of where Prize might expect a table. So I asked her to go to home base, not home base, pitcher's mound. And then I sent her to third base. And then I sent her back to pitcher's mound. So then I decided I wanted to send her to first base. And I gave her she starts running over there, but she didn't see the table I was sending her to. She locks on to this pallet of cinder blocks. And then as she gets closer, I start to see this confused look on her face. And that was the moment where, based on that communication, I could see she could start to disengage.
Okay. So I have a question for you.
Yes.
Could you actually see her face?
I saw her body language.
Okay. That's better.
Yeah. Okay. So while she was kind of headed in that direction, I probably could see a little bit of her face.
Right. But it's not like she was 3 feet in front of you. You saw her face.
No. This is many yards.
Right. So she's 25 to 30 yards away from you.
Yeah.
What do you think the thing was that you're like, she's confused, I need to step in?
This is a great conversation. I saw a hesitation and I saw her momentum start to shift.
Mm-hmm.
And her line of travel wasn't quite as straight anymore. She started to arc a little bit. And I just gave her her stop command.
Right.
So I just told her to stop because I saw at that moment I was losing my dog because she was headed toward the wrong thing.
Right.
I just gave her the stop. She dropped. And then I gave her a cue to go back because the table that I wanted her to go to was now behind her.
Right.
And she did it. And I was like, dang, girlfriend. Right. But it was that piece. And this is when you were talking about observing that point of disengagement and going back to the relationship and how often you work with that dog and you understand how that dog needs to motivate. Right. And what drives that dog and what that dog looks like when they're fully engaged. And when that engagement starts to shift.
Yes.
It was an example of that moment.
Right.
That I thought was actually kind of a cool, because I wasn't even thinking about it in terms of directionals until you said that. I'm like, yeah, that's a really cool way to be able to visualize that. Because we see that in searching all the time.
Right.
When the dog is starting to search, then all of a sudden, the dog all of a sudden is drifting up and out, or they're no longer really engaged in odor. All of a sudden, they're checking out.
Right. And it becomes really hard because I see this and I know you and I have talked about this, where you'll see a dog go into odor and it's almost like they do a circular pattern.
Yeah.
You can think that they're shopping, but what they're doing is processing.
Yes.
Right. I actually see this a lot in Raven because her hunt drive
is super high. It is.
And I can see her, she'll come into odor and it's then like she's almost got to do, and some of this I can modify it with hide setting later. But right now she's figuring out odor. She's figuring out the whole chain. She's doing all of that. So I allow a little bit, this comes to the craft part, right?
Right.
There's some nuances that I'll allow, knowing that I'm tightening it up later. It's a trade-off.
Yep.
And literally, it's that, is she engaged to run off and go sniff the ground someplace else? Or is it my body has to move so my brain can work?
Yeah.
Right. And that is the piece that when we talk about reading your dog, and the understanding of the relationship and engagement. My dog is still engaged in the problem. They're still engaged with me. But if I let them go down this path too long, and it might be 1.5 seconds to 2 seconds.
Right.
Right. You're going to miss the opportunity to stop the behavior or to refocus them in a direction that you want.
Yeah.
And then at the end of whatever you're doing, you have an event instead of just rewarding your dog.
Right. Absolutely. So let's talk about that a little bit more, right? So that event. So when we kind of think about this, because I realized what was going through my head should probably go through the microphone.
Probably.
Because podcast, right?
You know, well, and
I'm
you're like,
yeah,
oh
this
my
is just
God.
a conversation between the two of us, and we're like both on the same wavelength. And there's conversations that go in our heads,
Right.
but what we're doing here is not you and me having a conversation. It's you and me conversing with everybody.
Right.
So when we, yeah. So, okay.
Welcome to the conversations we have in the car, right?
I know. Yeah, this happens all the time. So reinforcement event, when we think about reinforcement versus just give your dog a cookie, right? Reinforcement is all about increasing the likelihood of something happening in the future.
Yes.
By that dog staying engaged, working through something challenging, and then you give a reinforcement event, which is not a cookie. It's a whole.
The cookie is
what an event is. It's like a party. It's like a celebration. It's not just here's your cookie or here's your toy. You're making such a big deal over it that event really makes an impact on the dog, and they get fully engaged in, because the engagement also has to happen during the reinforcement.
Yes.
They're not just eating.
Correct.
Right? They have to be engaged in the process of you reinforcing the dog. And if they're engaged in the process of you reinforcing the dog, or with food, could be with a toy, that whatever they did is get so much stronger. Anything that they did right before that gets so much stronger for the next time.
Correct.
So when you end up, let's say, next time you're searching and your dog does something, they remember the lesson that they've learned, right? And they stay engaged, get that tighter behavior chain. It's because you've put all of that reinforcement capital
on the behavior that they just did.
Exactly. Prior to them actually doing it.
Correct.
Because of all the history. So that's the stuff that was going on in my head that I figured should come out in the microphone.
Yeah. And if anybody who listens to us on a regular basis or does anything with me, terminology matters.
Yes.
Right?
Words matter.
Yeah. And there is you put out a reward to go catch a bad guy.
Yeah.
But you reinforce a behavior, because at the end of the day, we want that behavior to occur again. That is the definition of reinforcement. And one of the other conversations we have a lot is that people get very involved on, oh my gosh, my dog has to like this specific toy, or my dog has to do this specific thing. And really what I want people to think about is the toy or the food or the whatever you're doing is the vehicle in which you engage with your dog for a reinforcement event. I don't care if you're using a Yugo or a Ferrari for the tool to get you there. And I'm sure there's some people listening who are like, what's a Yugo? But anyway, look it up.
Oh my gosh.
I'm old. It's okay.
You got up to Wikipedia that thing.
Yeah, you are. Interestingly enough, when we think about the reinforcement events, what happens is I will challenge people to start asking your fellow trainers when you're out working.
Yeah.
Is that an event, or did you just do a trailer? Right? It is
You're thinking like a movie trailer?
Yeah, like a movie trailer. A movie is an hour and a half to 2 hours, unless you're doing something super scary, and then it's 3 hours long, right? But are you doing a 30-second trailer for this movie?
Yeah.
Depending on do I want you reinforcing your dog for 2.5 hours? No, but you get the idea.
Talking relative
amounts.
Yeah, it's all relative.
You get the idea. And the thing that I have learned so much about starting to watch all of the nose work people, right? Is the appropriate amount of arousal and engagement before you start to search.
Oh, it's so important.
Right? Because as a working dog handler, no, my dog just wants the thing. We're just going to go.
Yeah.
And they usually it's out moving and they can wear off some of that arousal. And they really just want the thing at the end. And so seeing some of those dogs come in that are doing nose work, they're not working dogs, which is fine.
Yeah.
Because I will tell you, sometimes it takes a much better handler or trainer to work with a dog that really doesn't want to do it. And then, oh my God, now has to work past 75 chickens.
It's amazing. It's amazing, actually. Yeah. Yeah. So it's like, for instance, like I talk about my mini Aussie Y, right? I mean, he's kind of retired right now. He's probably you got a fan club, buddy.
He does.
He's almost 15 years old, but always, getting him to the start line, the right arousal state, and making sure that he was engaged enough to actually search was a really big thing. And it's different. It can be very different than when you pull out, I take a look at Prize, right? And I'm going up to her crate with training, and she sees me put my helmet on, and she sees me put on everything and pick up her leash, and she knows her toy is already out on the rubble pile. She's barking in her crate.
Right.
And the difference in the natural wanting to go do the job is different. With Y, I have to get that energy up a little bit, or I did used to, he's retired. But anyway, like in staging, in trialing, we would do like cookie catches. I'd be preserving his energy prior to going to the start line, right? So a lot of it is there's so much you have to kind of think about, like your engagement and your arousal coming to the start line and nose work as a timeline.
Yeah.
And you're trying to actually optimize the arousal and the engagement so that the dog kind of peaks at the start line. And when you have a dog that is like more of like a working type dog, that peak is very easy and sustained.
Yes.
When you're working with dogs that are not necessarily genetically pre-programmed for the thing that you're doing, which is most nose work dogs, I would say.
Absolutely.
Right. And it's just because it's most pets. I mean, that's what it is, right? Not every dog's been out there bred to do
whatever,
right?
Right.
So it takes on a lot of finesse and skill and observation to get that dog through that timeline.
Right.
Of observing the arousal and the engagement and getting them to so that you're finely tuning that point at which they peak on the start line. And this is a skill. And this is something that I am always trying to coach my students to do because it's not easy.
Well, and I remember us having the whole conversation of thinking about arousal.
Yeah.
Right? As does the dog naturally cycle up or cycle down?
Yeah.
Right? In their arousal, we never thought about arousal cycling down a dog and almost suppressing.
Yeah.
And what's really interesting that
was my first dog. Well, actually, my first several dogs, they all cycled down.
Right. And it's interesting with the chickens.
Yeah.
As I'm table training chickens, I think by the time this goes, we'll be past chicken workshops. But even some of the chickens cycle up or cycle down.
Really?
Yeah.
No way.
It's because I get them on the table.
Yeah.
And some of the chickens literally stand and freeze. And the session before, I've had them moving around the table and they're fine. But this time, because of something that's going on, now they're like, I can't. And typically what ends up happening is I reset them. How do I do it? I pick them up.
Yeah.
Calmly, I pick them up. I let them eat while they're sitting with me.
Uh-huh.
And then I set them back out down on the table and feed them. And they're like, oh, got it. And so
you did a slow treat on a chicken. I mean, basically that's what that is.
That's what that is. And then
oh, that's so funny.
Here's the other interesting thing. I can also tell how stressed out the chickens are because they become sharky. They peck the cup harder when they're insecure. Yes, it's a thing.
Wow.
Yeah. So think about just the whole concept of your dog being sharky is Yeah. So now we have Sharky chickens.
Oh, that's so funny. That's so funny. I mean, I think everybody can relate to the Sharky thing. And especially when you start getting to like trigger stacking. And I mean, I was walking, Jack is doing his whole, rehabilitation
Rehab,
walk.
yeah.
And everything like that. And I had to get a new exhaust put on my van. Oh my gosh. So I walked him back from the auto shop and he's at the very end of his walk and he's been such a good boy. And he's like tired at this point. Mentally tired, not physically, but mentally tired because he's been walking a busy road next to me in a street heel, right? And just being a good boy. And we get to the point where we're getting very close to home. And all of a sudden he sees birds. And he's like, birds. And I'm like, okay, buddy. And I'm trying to get his attention. He's like, okay, mom, I can take your cookie and I can settle down. And I'm walking. He's being really good. And then he sees not very far after that, in the distance, somebody walking a dog. And all of a sudden it's like, whoa, what's that? And about that moment, a car drove by with this big German Shepherd sticking his head out the window, barking his head off at Jack. And then Jack's like, oh my gosh, right? And so now trying to get him back, he's just like, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? Right? And it took longer to get him back.
Right.
And I did the road. At this point, I'm trying to get his attention. I get his attention and he's about biting my fingers off.
Right.
As I'm trying to give him cookies, right? Because it's that trigger stacking and then he's getting Sharky.
Right.
Thankfully, we were back at the house at that point.
And it's one of those things. That's why I asked you, you didn't see Prize's face, but you saw the stutter in her step.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
As we think about our dogs and we move them through the engagement piece, can I tell Nico is getting more stressed when we're doing vet work on him? Because 9 times out of 10, I can give him Carl, which is
a toy.
Is his toy. Ask Redline Canine why they call it Carl, because I don't know. And so
toy,
he's got Carl. When he's comfortable, he's now started spitting Carl out so somebody can give him Carl back, because that's the exciting part, right?
Yeah.
If he is getting stressful, he starts getting chompy.
Ah, yeah.
Right? And Carl and he'll do that. And it comes down to all of those little tiny nuances. How do I know Raven is feeling stressed? She literally, she's a kangaroo, but she jumps harder.
Yeah.
Belle just is literally kind of like, let me just run at it and bounce off of it with both paws. That's her.
Oh, that's kind of like her brother.
Yeah. So I would tell people when we start thinking, and that's one of those nice things, we go back to distraction camp.
Yeah.
The relationship piece is how we have us as instructors spaced out in different places. And then the downtime where we talk about cycle up, cycle down, and managing that, all of those sorts of things. Plus, we are actually timing people on your reinforcement events.
Yes. And the observation and teaching people how to really read their dogs, not just in odor.
Right.
Right. This is all a part of it, because being able to read that and observe that and work the dog through distraction. Like, yes, we do have you work past 75 live chickens at the end of the camp.
We do.
In odor, you're working odor. And every dog's been successful so far in the year that we've done this, that it's really, you're starting, you start putting all those pieces together and you're building that foundation to be able to go out and work the dog in much more distracting areas than you ever have before.
Well, and I also think about this for one of the things that as an instructor, and I know we're on the same page, is we really concentrate on teaching people, this is how you do this and this is how you modify it to take it with you.
Yeah.
Because if you have to have us sitting over your shoulder or all of that sort of stuff, no,
that's not what we're doing. Yeah. No, we're trying to give you guys the tools to build on it and grow with it. And I think we've actually been really successful because we have people come back.
Yeah.
Following years, we're like, whoa, wow, look at the difference in that dog.
And it is also one of the very interesting things about camp. Often we have what we would consider, here's the principles that we're teaching.
Yes.
So much of what we end up covering depends on the students who are there.
Yes. Yeah, it always gets adjusted. Absolutely.
So it's always adjusting. And I think about the whole relationship engagement, arousal, and focus, because one of the things that we want focused searchers. And I don't care if you're on a rubble pile or working in
that's what we want.
School cafeteria, right?
Whatever odor you're doing, which by the way, this is not just for nose work. Distraction camp is not just nose work.
Yeah.
It's whatever odor your dog is on.
It's always fun and interesting when we've had conservation handlers, cadaver dog handlers, and nose work handlers, and live find handlers.
Cool. It's super cool. Yeah.
All in one group. And we're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, and we even had a trailing dog one year. That was fantastic.
That was amazing.
Yeah. And so I think about, that's one of the reasons why we really call this the collaborative, right? Because we're talking about detection as a industry. It's not an us versus them thing.
No. And each, and I think you use the word discipline, right? So like sport is a discipline of that.
Yes.
In search and rescue, like use and wilderness HR is a discipline. And,
right.
Like all these things, narcotics is a discipline, right? It's all just searching.
Yeah. We're asking our dogs to go find something using their nose because their nose is so much better.
Exactly. So going back to focused searchers.
Yes.
That is what we want. No matter what your dog is looking for or where they're looking, we want a focused dog. As a focused dog, when we have a focused dog, one of the most amazing pieces of that is when we're trying to clear areas, we know what's clear and what's not.
Correct.
If the dog is focused and the dog's worked through the area and the dog has put their nose in the potential path of target odor, that part's clear.
Right. And then we can move on.
Yeah. But when you lose focus or your dog, through loss of engagement, you're leaving holes.
Yes.
And at that point, you start to lose confidence in whether or not you can, in competition, call finish, or if you're out and you're searching and you say, yeah, my area is clear, or, my sector is clear, you lose confidence in that.
And I was thinking about, it's been interesting with the puppies because I do a lot of filming, right? And I've learned a lot about how odor moves when all of a sudden I'm like, is my puppy disengaging? And I'm like, oh no, they're sourcing my phone.
What?
Right. Because I'll set my phone up.
Yeah.
Right. In certain locations. And when you work in big box stores a lot, you don't know what odor is doing.
No.
Right. And so all of a sudden, and there have been many times where I'm watching my puppy I'm like, are they looking for a piece of popcorn? And then they get up to my phone and they nose boop my phone.
No, always tip it over.
And they always tip it over.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, that would have been a really great video. But anyway, and then they'll source out that, and then they'll go back to what they were doing. I've even had, I think, Raven or Bell us alerted on my phone once or twice.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. And then they're like, oh, okay, that's not it. And then they go back to work. But it also helps me really learn are you sourcing novel odor? Are you sourcing target odor? And for me, it's like, oh, when I'm doing a bottle cap or I'm handling my phone or whatever,
yeah,
my phone smells like dog treats.
I'm sure it does.
Right.
It's too bad you're using the fish kind, like
I know, because they're really smelly.
Armina or whatever.
Yeah.
You need to switch over.
Right. But even at that young of an age, I am starting to learn. Belle's been really good at this because I can tell you when she's actually hunting for target odor or she's trying to scavenge.
Ah, uh-huh.
Right. And when I say scavenge, she is actually hunting in my training building, looking for the treats that everybody else has missed. And oh my God, the amount of I want to eat chicken food that's currently going on.
There's a lot of chicken food in there. Oh my gosh. I tried to work Brava off leash in there when I think you were not home or something. And I'm like, mistake. She's just wanting
chicken food.
So I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Chicken food's tasty. Anyway.
It is anyway.
So I just being able to have those opportunities for people to read their dog really, really fast. And when you're working in non-sterile environments, it becomes really easy.
Yeah.
Right? Because you're like, oh, no, that's chicken poop.
Yes.
So anyway, takeaways.
I think for me, it really comes down to how searching, something I just want to kind of mention, it's not, we always kind of, I think a lot of times we think of searching as a singular behavior chain, right?
Right.
But in order for that behavior chain to be effective, we have to layer in all of these components to make that as effective. And that includes relationship. It includes engagement. It includes arousal. It includes focus. And it includes a reinforcement event that really kind of helps to fuel and build and pull all this together. So for me, the takeaway is that it's not just the getting to the hide part, but if you don't have all of these pieces working in harmony, you're not going to get the most out of your dog.
Yes. And I also, it kind of, for me, goes back to the recognition of that you had with Prize. It's because she had a hesitancy in her stride that I knew that this was coming. And one of the things that I go back to is the observation skills and how that's really important. And all of those layers, that relationship, engagement, arousal, all of that stuff is so layered together for us to have a great team with our dog. So,
yeah.
All right, everybody. With that, the link to Distraction Camp is in the show notes. We added a section of intentional handling and hide setting. And I think we have 1 or 2 spots left in there. So make sure to check all of that out and go train.
Canine detection, collide.